6 o'clock on January 8th. Let's go ahead and kick this meeting off. We'll start off, we have one addition of warrant CC8 for the Conservation Commission, which is in the folder. And I don't think there's anything else. So we need to review and approve the minutes from December 23rd regular meeting and December 30th budget meeting.
I move to approve the December 23rd meeting.
All right, I'll second. Any discussion on that one? Everybody good with those?
Yep.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? And then I'll go ahead and move we approve the December 30th budget meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on those? All right, all those in favor of approving the December 30th budget meeting minutes say aye.
Aye.
And all those aye.
Abstain.
All those against? And one abstention. All right, we got 4 warrants. Warrants 14, 14P. We have to ratify 13R2, which I signed at the holidays to pay for payroll, and CC8 for the Conservation Commission.
I'll make a motion that we approve payment of warrants 14, 14P, Conservation Commission number 8, and ratify 13R2.
I'll second that.
All right. For discussion, 14P is payroll. It's 11,107. 14 is 59,890. CC8 for the Conservation Commission is 9490. That's for display box. And 13R2 again is just taxes and payroll follow up at the end of the year. Any further discussion on those? All right. All those in favor of ratifying warrant 14, 14P, 13R2 ratification, and CC8 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? So it is done. ARPA funding. Any updates aside from the truck?
We have to sign the sheriff's contract.
Right.
Yep. Do we have a sheriff's contract?
Yes.
All right.
I sign it. Send it off.
Yep. So I think we all looked at it.
Right.
Let's, has everybody reviewed it? Is there anything in there that you want to point out to us, and then we'll just vote? You can sign it and send it.
No, it looks pretty cut and dry.
All right.
It's the same contract, but just
Extra hours.
extra hours.
Okay.
Just for the extra hours.
All right. So all those, I'll make a motion to go ahead and sign the extra hour contract for the Wyndham County Sheriff for patrols.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion on that? Okay. I think all of us are.
Do we all have to sign it, or just one?
Just one.
Okay.
You're our law enforcement fire department representative.
And I did get information on the, also on the increase for the animal control.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when we get down to the budget
Yeah, let's get
stuff.
the budget, we'll talk about that. All right, so all those in favor of signing the sheriff's contract for additional hours, which is 1 January through 31 July of this coming year, say aye.
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 And all those against? All right. Paul, feel free to sign that and send it back to him.
Mm-hmm.
Visitors and public comment, anyone here for anything aside from what's on the agenda? Is there a fire in place? We'll get to you guys at the budget.
Yeah, I think Paul Gary is also, you don't
Yep.
see him.
I don't see him yet.
As attempting to
Is he? Let
log
me see.
himself in. You can hold him in the waiting room until we get.
Yeah, I don't see
Yeah,
it.
6:30
I'll keep an eye out for it.
at work.
All right. Road foreman's report. I've not visited Paul Norman's property, so Paul's like, do I need to show up this week? I'm like, if I don't come to your property, then we're not going to talk about it. So, unless anybody has anything else. I do need to go visit it. There's just other things going on.
I did go visit it. I can understand that berm looks horrible on that property that he built.
Can it be his berm or the berm that Lee put there?
I don't know if Lee put it there, but whoever did put a berm up. You know, it kind of
Is that Paul?
detracts from the property. And I was wondering why we don't put gravel down when we dig a ditch like that. Just to stop the erosion, so no berm would be necessary.
Right there, I'm not 100% sure what you mean about putting gravel down, but
I mean, once you dig out a trench
Yeah.
or an
or you
area
mean
like
seed
that,
and mulch it or something like that.
I wouldn't even seed and mulch it because when it's down like that, you're gonna still get erosion running off the road if we have a big storm. Just to stop erosion into his property, you put gravel down, you dissipate the water instead of it rushing.
Yeah, I mean, it is all gravel out in the ditch already. So yeah, there's, we've never used gravel for anything like that. Riprap, right, will stop it for a while. Riprap will stop it from going very deep. It'll only wash down to the riprap. If you're getting gouging, but yeah. We've never done anything like that.
That'll be on a New Year's list of items that we're
Yeah. And I definitely would like to go out with anybody who wants to go out and look at it, and I'll explain everything.
Yeah, I did before the storm. when I
Yeah.
looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That will be an annual item for this year. So you read up on it. Correspondence for information. Anybody have any questions on any of those items? I responded to Isha Williams. Ellie's Pet Care, we're still working that. I think that's it. There's no correspondence for discussion. So new business, there is no update from the state yet on the Salmon Brook erosion. Hope to hear from them soon on the design, which is what we're waiting on. Lori Frechette has volunteered to be the interim delinquent tax collector, and her and Chris, the treasurer, and Eliza will take on the delinquent tax collector duties within their own hours.
Oh, great.
So we won't have to pay them. I told them if they work over though, don't just do it for free. They're like, no, we can do it fine. So, but it would be her name that would be the delinquent tax collector. So I would go ahead and make a motion to name Lori Frechette as the interim delinquent tax collector.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of appointing Lori Frechette as interim delinquent tax collector, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone saying no, doesn't want the delinquent tax collector coming after them. Views article. I think I already read it. Alex, I made the changes that you pointed out. I didn't see any specific changes from anyone else. I will update. What it's holding on is the numbers. I just want to make sure that whatever we finish tonight is correct. I told him to give it to him tomorrow. What do you have on it?
Well, you had 240 for the capital,
I saw that, yep.
so.
It's 245.
Yeah.
Yep, I updated mine. I'll make that
Okay.
change. Anything
And
else?
then you had said that the fire department only added 32,475.
So that's being nice.
Yeah, that it actually added 60,364.
Well, so that's an interesting question, which you guys, I know you guys read the article. So the total fire department contribution, because we did give them the 50 plus 27 last year, 26. So we actually gave them 76. So I measured on 76. I don't want to gig them as if your operating expenses have exploded.
Right.
But the net difference between this year and that year of what we're handing them in a paper bag
Mm-hmm.
is 32. It just
Okay.
happens to all be.
So even if you take the 110,364 that they're asking for now
Yep.
and deduct 76,000,
Yep.
it's 34,364.
34,364. I will double check that. I have it open right here. So let me.
Final draft numbers.
Yeah, I'll say about numbers. Let's see, general budget, fire department. You guys have read, nothing personal. It's interesting. 360. It's 360. Yeah, you're right. It's 20. It's less. Yeah, it's 6364 minus the 26,000. Right. That's right. 34,364. Yep.
I think that was.
And I'm gonna send Roger. I don't know what the graphics I'll send him as the actual spreadsheet, and I'll make sure that the net increase that I have at the top is correct. So it's changed a little bit. And I'll verify the numbers. I did send the numbers to the library because we'd asked them to write an article.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I want you to make sure that these are the same numbers
Yeah.
that you guys are going to use. So you're not saying one thing, we're saying another. And she came back and said, yeah, those are right. Those are good. So,
The only other thing on the very last paragraph, just a typo.
Yep.
It says funding raising. It should just say fundraising.
funding raising makes it sound. The very last one?
Very last sentence, last paragraph.
Oh, I think I already fixed it.
Oh,
So
okay.
Lydia, Friends of Lydia to increase fundraising in 2025.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So the purpose of the article is to let the town know this is what's coming, so that they at least have background. Obviously, they'll get the town report, but they'll understand where the increases are and why we're doing them and why we're going to make the library folks stand up and just explain to everybody additional funding. I just want to make sure that the town's, it's not just funding this year, it's funding for the next eternity, essentially, if they expand. So,
Mhm.
anybody else have anything on it?
Just basically, I'm just thinking that we need to look at the needs versus the wants. You know, I need $1 million. It doesn't mean I'm gonna get it.
Right?
We need a highway department. We
Yep.
definitely need a fire department.
Yep.
And I think those are the things that we need to look at, focus on, you know, as taxpayers ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what we really need to look at. And the other things are, I want. I mean, I want a library, I want this, I want that. Doesn't mean we're gonna get it.
Well, as we said, the library discussion isn't a binary thing, like there will be a library or there won't be. There will be a library, right? It's just the expansion that we're asking them to explain.
And I had one person come up to me in town and said, why don't they take the kids part of it and put it in school? In the library at the school when they're not operating in the school?
Right.
And I'm like, gee, I don't know if that's a good idea,
Yeah.
you know?
These are all, as we've talked about in other meetings, there's a million options for the library
Mhm.
and the community center. And them trying to figure that out is kind of part of their task with the trustees.
I just don't like to see us stick ourselves.
Well, and I think maybe you guys have kids in school. Isn't there a preschool program at Dummerston?
There is now, yeah.
There already is a preschool
Yeah,
program there.
and it's full.
And it's full, yeah,
Yeah, they have 15 kids, which is all they can take by their license.
yeah.
But it's full, and it's all Dummerston kids.
And there's things that they would have to look at to do that, right? What are the rules for being in the school and working with kids, right? It's different than the library as far as background checks, oversight.
Well,
Well,
It's-
you have them vetted,
Yeah, haven't vetted. So again, what I'd like them to do is,
because I don't
Come
know
up
if
with-
I'd get one as assistant librarian that wasn't vetted, you know?
well, I don't know if they're getting assistant
Leaving
librarian
kids,
as it
you know.
is.
I would think that the grant would almost require them to have,
Have it vetted.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, we'll talk more budget here in a little bit. So Laura's done.
So the other,
Yep.
Views of Dummerston article, I
Oh, yes.
got your feedback. Todd, did you have anything, Marie? Did you read that all?
No, that
You guys
sounds
were,
good.
sorry, I was over.
And Todd, do you have anything?
No, I think it's great, and I had a little last paragraph on volunteers for town, including the library and fire
Right.
department also.
Right.
So I want to hit them with multiple. Hey,
Okay.
so we're doing pretty, I think town-wise, aside from planning commission, there's a lot of volunteers showing up. Nobody knows going to planning commission, so.
So Paul,
Yeah.
did you see anything on that? When you glanced at it?
No, I
Looked okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send that in tomorrow.
Right, and I'll send this other one in tomorrow. It's
did, I didn't really proofread it for spelling.
Yeah, that's fine. Roger will.
Equalization study results. So I've read through that. If anybody can honestly say how they figure out education tax, good luck. I mean, the formulas and how it applies to the grand list and the town, it's kabuki.
There's a good YouTube on how to do
I
it.
think I watched that when I first moved here, trying to figure out how my taxes work before I was doing this. And
But
I'm
it was a pretty good explanation of how it works.
Well, and it's changed a little bit now, right? So the funniest thing is they don't tell you when they send you that there's really one number you want to look at, which is the,
CFD.
yeah, if it's over 20%, you might want to have a reevaluation because your grand list rate versus the rate they think for education may be out of whack, and you may be paying too much taxes or too little taxes.
Well, the state will actually, per Charlotte here, the state will require us to do a reappraisal.
But If it's over 20,
Yeah,
right, well, then we'll do one.
but we won't hear from the state until probably middle of the
Next
summer.
year.
I was gonna say, you know, what'd she say, 20
I think there was a
this
state
summer?
legislature effort to ease those requirements because it was too onerous. So we may not need to do a reappraisal.
When was the last one done?
Not long ago. It was during COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's add that to our list of 2025 items. Drainage, reassessment, sheriff. So we'll get these once we get the budget done. We'll start a good list.
Yeah.
We have a cading permit for Scott Farm on February 23rd. Want to do
Yeah.
our favorite
Yep.
thing?
So I'll make a motion that we recess the meeting and convene as the Liquor Control Board.
I'll second that motion. Do we vote on that?
Mm-hmm.
All those in favor of reconvening as liquor commission, say aye.
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 Get out the liquor. All those against? All right.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the catering permit request from Scott Farm for 2/23/25 from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of authorizing the catering permit for Scott Farm on February 23rd from 11 to 4 p.m., say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
And I'll make a motion that we adjourn as the Liquor Control Board and reconvene the meeting.
And I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? All right. Budget worksheets.
By the way, before we move into that, I'm just going through this folder with warrants. Did we need to vote on this contract for Vermouth Computers?
Well, that's interesting. So what do you know about this? This is somebody who apparently does IT. It's not really a warrant. It's a contract, and I read it, and I'm not
Contract.
really sure.
They've been doing our computer work for quite a while.
Okay. So this is
Yes.
just a continuation. In Article 3 on there, third one, the date's incorrect. He's got from January 1st of 2024, and I think he means from January 1st of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I have no issues with it. There's no money associated with it until they bill us. Is this the guy who does our email server? Or someone
No,
else?
no, that's Kevin Ryan does our.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a different company.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I
So this is
brought up,
software.
This is software
Yeah,
stuff.
the town software.
And I think he'll come service all the computers too. But does it require signatures?
It does probably.
it does from the select board members
So
of the
we can
select
put it
board.
on the next agenda.
Yeah, let's put it on the next
Okay.
agenda,
Yeah.
and I'll read it again.
And I had raised the question a couple of meetings ago of whether we want to maybe put that out to bid. It seemed like a lot for software support.
Oh, you weren't here. So I talked to Lori about that.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that covers 3 or 4 programs that we have, one through
Yep.
the cities and towns. I can't remember the name.
Nimric,
There's,
There's one for the cemetery. There's
yeah.
right,
It
and the
covers
listers
quite
have a
bit.
new set of software.
Yeah.
And we actually get, Kevin Ryan does our support for free,
Right.
the webpage and stuff. So,
So you guys feel okay about?
yeah, I felt okay about it.
Okay.
We did look into it, though. All those ones you brought up, we talked about last meeting. Those are all good inputs. What I've got for the budget, I think where we're not stuck, but what we need to focus on is Lee's here. So,
The diesel fuel.
yeah, I've had a little love-hate relationship with diesel fuel discussion, right? Because just as an outsider, I don't know if there's some winter and summer diesel fuel because I got a regular car and I'm on a tractor. The idea in my mind that somebody's selling you diesel fuel for $3.24 a gallon and somebody across the river selling it to you for $2.68 a gallon seems ridiculous. It seems like, are we getting the right number when you're calling on the phone? I know we're a municipality, we don't have to pay certain taxes, but if it's from New Hampshire, do they have to pay taxes to send it? What? It's
no,
a,
there are no taxes.
Right. So Lee, did you see his, so the going rate right now for diesel is 3,
Well, what we're paying right this second is $2.91.
$2.91.
Yes.
And the guy who typed to you in all caps,
Right.
Who's this guy?
Said that's Keen Discount Oil. And he was saying 324. and be careful what you buy. In other words. I look at it as this is for, a year and 3 or 4 months away from now, that we're gonna be paying this price or whoever we go with. So I don't wanna go too low. It's just too hard to make up when you don't have a lot in the budget that you can just flop over to that column.
And as you pointed out to me, the highway fund can take money from the general fund, but not the other way around. So if they're short, if diesel fuel ends up costing more than $3 a gallon at 14,000 gallons, that's coming out of the general fund money.
Yes.
Right. I just think that for the $5,000 or $7,000, it's better to have it in there. Keep it at $4. Right now, I think it's at like $4.21. So you'd still be cutting $3,000 off the diesel fuel budget. But if there's, with the new government stuff going on, why go down to what the price is right this second? I think we're just asking for problems.
Right. We're at
What
291.
quote did he give you for?
It was like $3.24. I'd have to pull up the
Because
email.
he gave me $279,
Did he? Yeah.
He said in the email,
Yeah.
and he put it in writing.
dang, worth the paper through.
Yeah. Yeah, and this might be a different person from over there. I don't know. I sent.
What you're talking
Is 291 through the company that bought out Barrows?
Yes.
So,
So they came down, right, from what Barrows used to charge?
Yes. Yes. They did.
This guy said 324.9. The price for winter diesel today is 344.9. Now I don't know if that includes taxes or not.
Yeah, I talked to him about taxes when
So he said that wasn't including taxes. That's just the.
Right. Right.
Hey Tom, sorry to interrupt you. There's someone whose mic is on.
Oh yeah, let's find out who it is. Yeah, I can mute Chris here because I have the power. Yep, thanks, man. I was wondering what that was. Right. So the question is, we were at 291, and we're like, well, let's put $3 over 14,000 gallons, and I'm like 9 cents a gallon is pretty tight. I mean, it's like penny trading here, right? If a year from now, because this doesn't affect what we're doing now,
Right.
It affects next winter. If diesel's at 350.
Well, I think,
We're going to be $7,000 in the hole.
I think diesel's gonna be going down.
Yeah, and this person said it was. I think in that same email he said it was going up.
Yeah.
But
If anybody knows, we'll buy 1,000 gallons. So
Right, exactly.
right, exactly. I
I
think
got
it's
a 1,000 gallon
anybody's-
tank up in my backyard, so does
Yes.
anybody thinks it's going, up, go get some.
Yeah. I just don't want to cut it so close that.
So is there a middle ground?
Yeah, and I was thinking the 4.
350.
Right. You can do whatever. It's just it's when you have to run the trucks, you run them. When
Right.
they have to run the fire trucks, they fill up there too.
Right.
It's we just go over.
So it's just about, right. And the risk is how much comes out of the general fund
Right.
for other things, and then we're in the hole.
Yeah. Is it worth taking that out of the budget? And even if it's, I mean, in the perfect world, you'd like to think it was going to keep going down, but eventually we're going to have a spike again. And I'd much rather be ready for the spike.
Or once we
than-
go after Greenland,
Right.
watch out.
Yeah, once it takes over
51st
Greenland and,
state.
the Panama
Right
Canal.
Yeah, I mean,
Canada.
yeah, trying to read the tea leaves. Trying to read the
57
tea leaves. I think we need to figure out just what we think is the most.
What's the
I think
highest
350
we've
is
paid
reasonable.
for diesel in the
350?
last few
Yeah.
years?
I'm not sure.
But
I'm not.
But
there was a number of years ago.
Oh, yeah. We've
340.
been up in that $4.
343.
But it's just a matter of how long ago that was. And, I'm not sure.
So if we do 350 at 14,000, somebody do it in their head. I had it. It's 42 and 7. It's 49,000. Is that right? All you people get your phones on you, Larry.
Yes.
What's 350 times 14,000?
Got it. $49,000.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Well, brain doesn't work very well. So that would be an increase of $7,000 from what we have now, which is 42, which is $3 a gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
It's a little bit safer. What does everyone think on that?
I'm sorry, what number?
$3.50 a gallon instead of $3. We planned $3 a gallon for 14,000 gallons, so $42,000. So we put in the budget.
We're,
This would put it at $49,000. $3.50 a gallon at 14,000.
you know, with Lee suggesting 4, should we consider 375?
I just think that, you know, the impact wouldn't be that great at 350.
Right. So if it goes to 4, it's with 7K. Right. So every 50 cents is 7,000.
where we started this year's budget at.
I think 4.
It was,
$60,000.
yeah, it was, I think it actually, yeah, I was thinking.
So we're dropping it down.
421.
What was last year's number, Maria?
Last year, we put in 59,000.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's a 10K reduction.
yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with 350.
I am also.
Anyone else? You guys are good with that?
I'm okay with it.
All right. So let's do 350 and make it 49 for diesel fuel. Are there, aside from the county tax, what other outstanding things are there on the sheets?
I don't think there's anything.
All right.
That was it for the highway?
Let's get some hot Scoobies to give us.
Nope.
Sure.
No, I'm good. All right, well, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for doing research.
Yeah.
All right. Fire department.
Oh, I had one
Oh, Lee, the fun
question.
is just starting.
You can let me know what happens.
Lee, I had one question with that truck repair that's going on, and you mentioned that the warranty had just expired. Do you ever get extended warranties, or isn't
We
that?
get them 7 years, and that's
Yes,
the
I think it's
longest.
out.
Okay.
Yeah, let's double check. It's on the general fund. It's got its own.
Some-
Looking at on one truck.
Oh, yeah,
Did we
it's
work it out?
One before that one.
It's
I
zero.
believe that was
Zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
0 for the year.
Because they've got
And usually the
22,000
transmission
liquid
will be.
0. Yeah.
right now.
No, we put in 0.
Yeah.
Something
So we're gonna let them take care of maintenance.
Yeah, 22,000
Now
liquid
it'd be
funds.
fine.
That's not,
Transmission.
doesn't include the 80,000.
Right, and the 80 is if there's an emergency,
Yeah.
destruction,
My-
whatever, that they can.
What's bothering me the most is the.
Yeah, that was the plan. So that worked out quite
You
good.
have to talk to napalm in order to,
Or, you know,
Right.
close to. the
Well,
that kind of
I
thing.
like our cemetery commission. It's like, we don't need the money.
All
I'm
right,
like,
thanks.
you're my favorite person.
Yep.
So we zeroed it out immediately.
And also the mowing, I think you
Give
give
them a
that
pass
to a
for it.
contract. Because that seems awful high to me.
Lee's working on that.
Lee's working on that.
Okay.
So he's gonna go out. He asked around to a number of places. There aren't that many people that mow cemeteries. It's a pain in the various parts.
Yeah.
It's done, yeah.
Because, so Lee's working on the mowing for the cemeteries. So, but the budget number we're keeping in is the number Brett came, and if we find it cheaper, then we'll do it for cheaper.
And it's still, if anyone knows of anybody, feel free to mention it because it is, I'm having a hard time finding people that.
Can't find mowers generally speaking, let alone a
Right.
cemetery. I'm gonna start mowing my own yard pretty soon.
Probably find the mowing easy enough, it's the weed whacking.
Exactly.
All right, so fire. So, I've got, Paul, I see you're on the line. Can you hear us?
I can. Unfortunately, just to let you know real quick, I have to jump at 6:30 for a work meeting.
Well, that's all right. Larry can handle everything. He's a numbers guy. He just uses
Paul
calculators.
just wanted to say hi before
Yeah.
you jump.
So, we're good. So here's, I think, where we stand. And Paul, I did update the article with a line in there because it took me a minute to understand what you were saying is I didn't want everybody to think that your operating expenses went through the roof because they didn't. They didn't change that much at all.
Right. Yeah, that was my only
Yep.
concern with the wording was that yeah, we didn't give that impression.
I talked about that with my
Thank you.
attorney and put a line in there to indicate that that we've agreed to pay your operating expenses. The operating expenses themselves have not increased greatly, right? And that's kind of what we talked about last year was you guys used to come in with your operating expenses minus your fundraising, and that's what you asked for, right? So it'd be 60,000 or 65,000. And what we talked about last year is like, all right, let's not do that. Let's operate the fire department with the expenses you need, at least me, and I think everyone who's here, and talk about fundraising and talk about the capital fund. So last year we gave you some money for the capital fund, but this year you guys indicated you didn't want to do that. That you'd handle your own capital stuff within your own fundraising, et cetera, et cetera. the question I kept asking that I probably wasn't phrasing right is, the gaps that Paul's identified was basically annual fundraising, which we're saying is 30,000-ish every year. And then we have the capital spending amounts, and I just put it in for the next 4 years. So this year, you have 102,000 in capital needs, and you have 30,000 in fundraising. So how are you guys funding that 72K this year? Because you didn't ask for it.
Yeah, so there's, is that net of the 102 or 12?
102 less
that's
fundraising.
Less fundraising. Well, is that the expense or the starting balance?
Well, so in this little sheet that I sent out, I put a starting balance of 200,000 in there. I know we talked last year. You guys said you had money in multiple accounts that you were going to use for capital. Is that the starting balance that we run this through 5 years?
Yeah, Paul Deary's what he shared the first time had our actual capital funds. Our capital fund had like a building capital fund, a truck capital fund, and he rolled those together, and that was the starting balance number that was on the initial template we shared was the sum of those things, and so that was the like 102 or
102. Yeah. Yep, I got that. But so what we've done with our capital fund is instead of it going $20,000 one year, tax-wise, instead of putting 50,000 in 1 year, 180 the next year, 20 the next year, 300, it's going, what's going on with my taxes?
Yeah, right.
I think we might even make that point.
We looked over 5 years and just said we're gonna put 240 in for the next 5.
And we'd love to do the same thing.
Okay.
Where we started, like, I don't think the last time I sat in that chair and then I stood up and you said, so what I think I heard is, that you guys were gonna fund our operating budget and that we were gonna handle funding the capital budget. And you said, is that what you said? And I said, yes, and we'll be back eventually to have to talk about our capital fund because we need the help raising that funding. We're going to have that gap regardless of where you want to choose to help us. If you don't fund the operating budget, we use our fundraising to put it over there, and so it's less. We also have a finite number of dollars, and it doesn't really matter. It's like your town report article you wrote. And it's our operational preference to feel more secure in our operating budget than in our capital budget. If we feel like we need to replace the windows because they're falling down, like we could plywood over a window and keep marching on for another fiscal year. Whereas we can't ignore our utility bills. We can't not pay our dispatch fee. Our operating expenses are net 30 expenses, kind of expenses. And so, we felt like that gave us a better strategic position to invest what we are able to fundraise, rather than feel more secure in our capital budgets. But
sure.
Yeah, and I don't want the fire department to think that it's all their responsibility. It's the town's responsibility.
Yes. So I'm just walking us through from where we are right now. So you guys have a starting number in accounts somewhere that you set aside for capital stuff, planning,
I
right?
thought it was on the capital plan. Balance for.
I guess the question is there a starting number? So
Paul, do you have that number?
Just quickly before I have to go.
Yep.
The balance forward on the plan is the beginning balance. That's basically what we have. And then there's the contribution, which is the expectation or what we need to put into the fund for that given year. We have what I put forward had the 26,000 that we were receiving. That's just what we plugged in for this year. We don't know how we'll end the year and what else we might be able to put in there on net, adding to that one.
hang on, I want to go back to your starting balance thing. So what's the 46,000?
So the 110,676 is balance forward. That's the starting balance at the beginning of fiscal year 2025, the one we're in right now.
110.
676.
Okay. So
that's where we're starting.
Okay, so that's good. So the thing that I built out that I sent you that had 5 years, Paul, that again I put 200,000 in there and italicized it as just an arbitrary starting number.
Right.
But that number is 110,676.
Yes.
Okay. So it's easy then,
For us to go make a dynamic row that's just
which is already set.
what keeps it right. What keeps it from going negative.
So 110, because I have it right here, 676 is your starting number.
And so whatever number you come with, that's what we'd love. Collaborative help, preferentially over tax help, but if it's some combination of the two, or, you know, just third option, more discussion about deferring expenses.
Right.
You know, those are the options on the table.
Yeah,
as
so
we see
so
it.
basically what that runs out is next year, after, in FY27, you guys are in the hole, based on your capital needs
Mhm.
and your fundraising adds. And then you're really in the hole in 28, 29, 30.
Yeah,
you
that's
guys got
the air packs.
air packs and
Yeah.
other things like that.
And I think we even pushed air packs back to 27 because I realized
Right.
our capital year ends in the end of June, and if we wait until then to get air packs, we will be past our year. So I think we bumped air packs back to 27 even.
Right. Which
But
helps. So
it
it's
starts
basically, I run this last night. Control V.
I don't think it's working.
So if we were to level fund to make sure your capital is there, it needs to be, looks like probably 55,000 a year over the next 5 years. That doesn't even keep you out of the hole. 28's killing you, right? Because you have 100, almost 200,000 in capital needs. We can build you a nest egg, but it's going to get a little tight.
I would just run it to 60.
Whoa. So if we run it to 60 a year over the next 5, yeah, in FY28, all your other years you're fine. FY28 is the hard one. So you go in the hole a little bit in 28, but in 29 you'd have a 40K buffer, and in 30 you'd have a 100K buffer if we did 60 over 5 years.
And I also think that's where Dan's comments about, like, yes, SCBA has to be done on 27, but if we're in that hole on 28 and we need to defer something that's still working, we're not.
We're going to defer
fiscally
everything that's still working.
Yeah,
Right.
We're not fiscally
Right, so these numbers could-
irresponsible. We're
right.
still going to push that down
Right.
until it's not
And
feasible.
and obviously if an auxiliary gets built up, there's more fundraising,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, if we can trend more like 55,000 instead of 35,000,
Right.
you know, we'd be happy to come back and say, this is reasonable to dial it back. We also have a grant submission out, I guess you'd say, for the portable radios line
Yeah.
on there that we won't hear about until the end of the summer, the middle of the summer. But you know, if you zero that
Yeah.
expense item out in year, I think it's fiscal 26.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
I would like to work with your auxiliary for a fundraising idea that I have.
Yep.
A tag sale.
Yep.
Where basically everybody from town
We've
has
done
stuff
that.
they want to get rid of. You know, like I've got bicycles, you know, an electric motor for an outboard, you know, and donate it to the fire department as a tag sale.
Yep.
You know, have a
They did those back
A
in the
town
day
ride
when the
tag
auxiliary was
sale.
bigger. So if we can build that auxiliary to take that capacity, then definitely, I don't see why the auxiliary would. They're open to all the options.
Yeah, we're happy to use our facilities. And
All right, people
great,
have
great
spoken.
possible example.
We
So-
have plenty of thoughts ourselves on fundraisers. It's just carrying them out with the help we have and not having it dive into your response numbers,
Mhm.
which brings down your ISO, which raises your house insurance, which everything
yeah, property value
affects
goes
one
down.
another. So
So that's a big chunk. You know, there might be a way to defer it a little bit. I mean, you guys have enough money to get through this year. 130. You have about 20 some left. That would just mean additional over the next 4 years, since we're not. If we didn't, I'm just throwing this out. If we didn't do 60 starting this year, a little bit like we're doing with the capital fund. No, the structures. We're there was 80 in the account,
Right.
and so we're not funding that 80 this year, but we'll start funding 80 every year for like the next 50 years to get to all the bridges in town. 30 years, whatever it happens to be. 60 adds, let me tell you what it adds. So right now we have a tax increase of 11% where we're sitting. If we had 60 in capital for you guys, it moves it to 15.2%. So that's what 60K will do this year. It's a pretty big increase.
It's huge.
It's huge. Or, you know, we look at none this year and a little extra in the following 4 years, but obviously whatever we don't do this year is going to show us an increase next year, right? So if we did 0 this year and then 75 over the next 4 years to make your numbers work,
Can
it's still a
I
75.
make one suggestion?
Oh, please.
I don't know if it's earmarked already, but what happens when you sell when you sell the engine, when we get that tanker in too?
Right.
Is that something that could be diverted to our capital fund to help alleviate taxes in other areas?
I don't think it can.
No,
I think
it's
it
gotta
has to
go.
go back into
That's
our
what I was
capital.
curious.
I think it has to.
And the other question too is, so, and then this we addressed last year too, they don't really have a capital fund like we do that's not controlled, right? So if we're giving them chunks per year, it's like leave with the roads. If we give them 105,000 this year, and the plan is to give them 105 next year and then 105 the year after that, and then have them do Middle Road, where does that money sit? Would we have to create a separate fund? So if we were giving them 60K a year,
Yep.
and they don't spend it all. So for instance, after this year, they're going to have, in theory, let's just say we did this, they'd have 100,000 left in their fund or their account, or do they just keep it in their account?
They're separate 501c3s,
Right.
so
So
they
once we give it to
keep
them,
it.
they've got, we don't have to do anything.
It's not like the
Yeah,
town
okay.
spends.
Okay.
And it's still our intent to report back to you every year with what we spent,
Sure.
what we used,
Right.
and what we kept in the fund.
Yeah, I mean, our organizational bylaws and mission are very narrow. You know, it's if our entity ceased to exist, the IRS would require that its funds go to a similarly missioned organization, which would be those of us in town who do firefighting underneath some different name, I guess. I have to look at it, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, I was able to sign back on my other meetings, having some technical difficulties. But yeah, Dan's correct. That's, you know, it's not something that gets to be cashed out. So,
Yeah, they'd still be 37 short. If we didn't do any this year, but then we do 80 in the next 4 years,
They'd still be short.
they'd still be short in 28. But depending on what there is in 28, if you could do half in 1 year and half in next year, you're not going to be short. It's just all of whatever that is in 1 year. What's the FY28 big hit?
I think it's the air packs, and that moved up to 27.
I have the sheet here somewhere. Under the capital budget, here it is. Make it big because I'm old. It's the SCBA packs are 160. Those are FY28.
Yeah, we had to bump those to 27.
Well, so year 27, but I think it's FY28.
No, FY
budget.
27.
FY20. So you
Yeah,
want a year
I think-
earlier.
See, Paul, I thought he didn't have the most current capital plan.
Right. I just had the one that was sent whenever we started this.
Yeah, we had to, because they're due in May, and so that falls in 27.
May of 27.
So that has to fall on capital.
So that makes
or
FY28. That bumps that
No,
total
with our
up.
capital FY28 stuff.
Yeah, FY27 makes FY28 look better, makes FY28 look awful. So that 160 puts you up to $257,000 that 1 year. Because you have thermal cameras.
Yeah, and I talked to Paul about moving those over a year because I think we can stretch those another year realistically.
Right, and thermal cameras and extraction equipment, turnout gear, and some pagers. I think a little bit like salary caps in baseball, if you're gonna move 160 forward, you need to figure out a way to move 160 the other way. Because it's gonna be hard enough. So your hole is gonna be in either 27 or 28.
Yes.
Although there's a little extra money in, I have to redo the numbers. But that's neither here nor there for what we're trying to do now.
By going light this year for the next fiscal year that we're discussing, you know, that would give the town an opportunity to see if the auxiliary can ramp
Right.
up and contribute real
Right.
money
Right.
more effectively.
And let's see,
And we also don't know what's gonna happen with the library.
right, and right now, you're right, there could be an extra 20 grand for the library. So the big hits we're taking this year won't hit us next year. So moving it down the road will help a little bit, right? So this year, all the big hit is getting our cap fund up to 240. So that's $130,000, includes the fire truck, just so you guys know. You know that, I'm kidding. But next year, that 130,000 increase won't be there because we're doing 240, 240, 240, 240. So in theory, starting with 80 next year, we don't have the 130 hit on top of that. So, but it is an automatic, it's like we knew the fire truck was coming this year, and we know we're starting 80 in the hole, as it were, going to next year for capital. So I don't know what thoughts are on that.
Well, I just want to say that I'm grateful that we're at this level of discussion compared to when I first started attending these meetings 3 or 4 years ago.
I mean, I don't,
We're solving actual problems of the future now, as
Yeah,
opposed to
because I don't want to have to deal with this again.
next month.
Nor do we.
Yeah.
And you know, we own part of it as well. For years we said we're good, we'll just stay level funded, we'll stay minimal increase. And that's on the past organization that we're trying to look forward and not create this hole again.
So let me take this out really quick. I want to know. Whatever I just did. Quick Control Z, Control Z. They told you when the Alt Control Delete guy died. The Control Z guy is the one I want to honor. So, not putting it in this year, like I said, we're at 11% increase overall in expenses. It actually works out to 10.4 tax-wise because we have.
Well, that'll change because we just added on the diesel fuel.
Oh, we said the diesel fuel. I have to add that too.
Yeah.
But aside from that, so 157K increase in spending is what we're at right now. Not counting diesel. I'm just doing this for, and that's an 11% increase. So if we add 80 next year, that's gonna be 5. So we're starting next year with a 5% increase. Does that make sense? Close to that. If we start funding at 80 per year for the capital needs. Kind of like this year, we knew there was going to be a 10% increase just because the fire truck came up. And so I'm trying to think what else could hit. I mean, it's been 2 years of kind of getting things in order. Right? We had to get the pay set up last year for the employees. And we skipped the capital fund, or the structures fund. The structures fund's kicking in next year too. Right. So we're at 11% next year just right off the bat if we follow the structure fund idea. I don't know how to crack this. Anybody have any thoughts while I sit here and play? Somebody must have thoughts. You guys are like, we're not going to say boo.
Well, I would like to see us somehow get more businesses into town.
Yeah, you want to raise our tax base. That ain't going to happen before I write this article. That's on next
No.
year's agenda
Yeah.
of items to do. Yeah, get that old beer factory.
Maybe
we
now
should.
is looking pretty promising. Or
The beer
No,
factory
fair
did get
brewing.
approved, didn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm talking the old one down by the Pepsi.
Yeah, the old Pepsi
Yeah.
place.
Did it get
No,
approved?
there's a DRB hearing coming up in a week.
Okay, so it's still, okay.
Are there things afoot there?
Yeah, there's a brewery from up in Thetford or
Where Hermit Thrush used to be?
Yeah, I know the building.
Mhm.
It's a scary building for
Yeah.
firefighters.
Oh,
Also cell towers.
It's been nicely chopped up and stairwells
Reworked.
don't really go anywhere and lots of partition walls.
yeah, so we don't really know what they have in mind, but I think there's a hearing on, is it the 18th or I was hoping to go to the site visit just to learn about their plan.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
maybe we'd rather be occupied.
49, right? Yeah, 49. We could do 40 plus the diesel fuel and keep it under 15% spending. That would be, well, God, how does that go up? All right. I don't know the answer.
Did you put in 35 for the diesel?
I put in 350. I put in 40, 49,000. Yeah, I
Yeah.
updated that already. That difference is, for the purpose of discussion, let's just take the fire department money capital fund away for a minute. So the diesel fuel moves it from 11 to 11.5. That's $7,000. All right.
Tough.
Somebody shake the couch.
Is partial funding this year an option, and so it's not as high next year? Is that what you were looking
Well, that's what I
at?
thought. I looked at 40 this year, followed by 70s. Instead of all 60s, do 40 and 70s instead of nothing in 80s. So that would offset the kick up next year, but it's going to still put this year. We'll put this year at we'd be at 14.2 if we did 40 for you guys on top of the diesel fuel. And so that, I mean, that works out. I don't know what people's financial situations are, so I don't want anyone to believe that I do. So that'll work out to, go to calculator.
Yeah.
Got you here for something.
All right.
What's 14.4 times 0.2?
Times 2.
0.2.
0.2. 288.
Right. So that's a net 288 increase on your tax bill. Because that's the 14.4 is only the municipal side of your tax bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's only 20% of your overall tax bill. I'm not trying to slag off the education funds, right? But I always just want to make sure that whatever number we come up with, that people understand that your entire tax bill is not going up 14.4%. The municipal portion of your tax bill is going to go up, what's the number?
2.88.
2.9%. So the 2.9% increase in your tax bill is coming from the municipal budget.
To the town increase.
Is attributable to the town, right? The rest of it is attributable to the education fund, which if it comes down, I don't know what they're talking about now.
Yeah.
I mean, last year they scared everybody with, 25% and it came down to 9. And so I always just want to kind of level set that. I mean, that means for me, I don't know where my house ranks it's an extra $21.37 a month for the municipal side of the tax bill, which is nothing, right? It's $250 for somebody a year, $256 a year somebody's got to come up with for our side of it. All right, I've done all the math I can do. Your taxpayers, Tom.
If I don't have any good ideas right now. I'm trying to rack my brain for something.
But if I
creative.
said to you, your municipal tax rate's going to go up 14.4% after going up,
Yeah.
what was last year? 18.82%.
Personally, I'm not super concerned, but
There is-
it's what everyone else in the town thinks as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, the other option, of course, is the same thing we're doing with the library. Just let the town decide. Right? When we have the budget, if
Well, I say we go with the increase, and the town doesn't like it, then it's back to the drawing board.
well, history would tell you, and history sitting to my left, that the budget's never been reduced at town meeting.
Never.
Right? So it only gets increased. So I don't think anybody wants to stand up and say, I don't want the fire put out at my house. Right? That's a little weird. But they may stand up and go, I think we need a fire department. And they're right. And so the pitch is made that we think that X number is the number it should be over the next 5 years. But we want the town to have a say on that, because if we put it in the budget, they may yell and scream about it, but nobody's gonna want to reduce it at town meeting. Whereas if we don't put it in the budget, and you guys get up and say, hey, here's the funding, we talked to select board about this, and $80,000 a year over the next 5 years is what's gonna take to keep our guys safe and put out fires and do everything we're supposed to do, they're gonna then vote on that and go, yeah, we're fine with that. I understand attack, but they have a choice in that.
Mm-hmm. I'd say I'd wager that our odds in that scenario are a 50-50, and that if we come in the town budget,
Right.
sounds like it's 100.
It's 100, yeah.
So that's obviously not
Yeah.
our preference. One of the benefits of the hours that we've sat here together and discussed it is that we have done this math in circles a bunch of times and discussed, the actual expenses and the timing, and members of the public will have a difficult time coming to speed with appreciating as many things as
Right.
the people in this room do.
I think the 40 followed by the 80s is the better way to go. It does, if that's what we want to do, because again, instead of starting with a 5% increase next year, we're starting with 2.5, because we're only going from 40 to 80 instead of 0.
How does 40 sound to the department?
It'll get you guys through.
We're about working with you guys, and
Yeah, I mean,
we're taxpayers as well.
We also
so
don't have very many options, right?
Right.
Right.
We're beholden to the town.
You've seen our numbers, and those are our numbers.
We would like to fundraise
Whether we move them
more.
around a little bit, they're still our numbers
Yeah.
over the next 5 years.
Actually, it would be 40 followed by 60s. So it's a lot less increase next year. In FY28, there's a shortage, but as you pointed out, that's 2.5 years of building up, hopefully better fundraising.
I also think that, we've decreased it from last year.
And if we win our radios grants,
We come to you and
Does
you
it-
get to keep it at your 40s possibly.
yeah.
Right. So what happens if they get a grant? So, because we're not going to give you the money until July 1st, right?
If it's approved at town meeting, they get it after, well, a lot of times your funding is split between right after the August tax
Yeah.
payment and then another one after the February tax payment. So
Once it's authorized, they're going to get it next
they're
year.
gonna get it no matter what.
So if you get your radios, then you carry over, and instead
Yeah, then we recalibrate the, 60
Recalibrate.
each year turns into 25 each year, or
Right,
whatever the
Right.
dial down is to stay
So between
above zero.
possibility of grants, which are out there, possibility of increased fundraising through the auxiliary, et cetera, can bring the further future years down. FY28, some work has to be done. FY28 is going to be tough. Or, well, actually, it's 27, because you said it moved.
27.
Which I'll take a look with Paul and see what we can roll forward. I know we can't, the air packs.
Yeah, you've got
We're locked in on them.
requirements on that.
Yeah, we won't be able to continue to send people to fire academy trainings
Get them refilled on
without
fires.
other
Or
departments
fires.
fill our packs and
Fires in general,
Yeah, and then we would feel
The
like
fire
we're using
part.
them.
So, all right. Let me see what happens here.
But all we can sort of offer are optimism about fundraising efforts
Sure.
and grants.
That's right.
When were you applying for the grant? Or you already have?
The
We
AFG
already
actually
have.
went out in December of
Right.
20th this year, so it usually goes out in June and we don't hear till October.
Yeah.
For some reason, they wanted it in December.
December.
Yeah.
And will you hear back on that grant prior to town meeting? More than likely not.
No, I think it's still in
It's gonna be in
yeah.
June.
Yeah, they just made us work harder,
Mhm.
faster.
And how much, you don't know how much that grant's for, or you,
It's for purchased materials, so
It's-
we spec a specific product and make a justification for why we need that product.
how much were you asking for then?
That was 227,000,
Okay.
right in that ballpark. We went, obviously, if a grant's paying for it, we went with the better radio.
Oh, yeah.
But
We have a member who, well, they're a couple, and she lives right here in town, and he lives in Massachusetts, and he works for Massachusetts Department of Emergency Management and Public Safety, and is the grant writer there. He reviews state grants for public agencies in Massachusetts, and also collects all of their FEMA submissions, and said, here, don't ask for the cheaper radios. Like you're going to get the same score, and in fact, you'll get a better score if you ask for the radios that have more of the features for the areas that you do respond. We get various bonus points for our topography and ruralness. The fact that we operate on the interstate and a few other things, so we can have like shared bandwidth with other agencies.
Yeah, we were gonna go.
And so we relied on that person's guidance a lot to help us figure out how to submit that.
That's great.
But yeah, so if if that doesn't work out and we end up buying them ourselves, I think we've got that large sum of money in there. But this grant, the value of these radios is like double.
And how much do you have in the capital now that you're estimating?
That was the first number you wrote down. It was like
110,
110.
676.
Yeah.
No, how much do you have budgeted for the radios
Oh,
in your plan?
Don't.
It's like 98 or
I got
something.
it here.
Yeah.
In this year,
I think it's
$91,800.
So that's almost it's 3 times that.
Yeah.
If we win the
Right.
grant.
Right.
The cost of those products.
But if you get the grant, then
then the 91 goes away.
it goes away. Exactly.
away
So then we're
zero.
not even having a discussion.
Right.
As far as
Right. Then if we did 40 the first year, then the next year could be, you'd have to stretch it across the line to see what it needs to be, but it might be lower than 40.
Right.
Minus.
If fundraising, also happens simultaneously, maybe it's 0.
Right, so if we do 40 followed by 80, I moved the air packs to 27. I took them out of 28. I didn't take anything else out of 27. For 27, you'd be, if we put 40 in this year and 80 next year, you'd be about 70 in the hole, 69,000. After that, you're fine. So if the radio grant comes in, it could cover that 69.
Or fundraising
Or
is
fundraising.
successful.
right.
Um,
Our fundraisers are usually successful. It's just executing more.
Yeah. When we do them, we make money.
right.
you know.
Right. So the head of your auxiliary is sitting right here.
No,
Right here.
I'll be willing to work with you, the head of their auxiliary.
So 40 followed by 80 in each of the next 4 years. You're fine this year. The grant comes through, we're fine. Because the grant's gonna be however much money that we can take off from this year. They would then carry over. Basically, you need 70 for FY27. Plus any additional fundraising in the next 2 years. Well, 1 year, because FY27 will be here talking about it next. But we'll know about the grant by then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, it gets a little, in 28 in theory, you're left at 5K, but then in 29, you're at 82K, and at 30, you're at 165K in the bank. So in 5 years, you'll be plus 50 to the good of what you have now, and all your stuff will be covered. The grant would help, fundraising would help. All right. And the increase next year will only starting probably like 2.5% increase instead of 5 if we fund 40 this year. All right.
Yeah, we're back to that statement Dan made last year when we first came to our first meeting. Sorry, we've arrived with a broken ship.
All right. So I'm going to update the numbers. So Maria, I'm going to put 40 in that 0 line item. For the fire department, we zeroed out capital. It was 0. So fire protection is still 110, 364. Capital fund is 40. And I've done 42 for the diesel fuel. And that's puts us at 14.4. And I will add to the article a discussion on the fire department capital fund if you guys want to add it to your article too. So, looking for fundraising and grants, but this is, again, because really what I want to cover is the increase. So the general fund, I want to cover it broadly, right? So the general fund is going up 78K across everything on the general fund.
Right.
A lot of that is going to come for the operating expenses and capital for you guys. I don't have any huge problem paying for the fire department. Just want to make it as easy as possible. But if someone wants to call and yell at me for 14.4, they can.
Yeah, and I offer, of course, still stands as it did before to bring a poster and a table and
Oh, you're gonna have a
Yeah,
table
the
and I
pie
expect
chart
baked goods and a
and, you know,
Dalmatian.
Maybe we should bring a boat too.
I'm still working on
let the
putting
bean off
together.
Yeah, bring a boat.
and
Set it on the table.
If you don't have a Dalmatian, I'll bring my Irish Doodle.
I want to do a open house too.
Open
Before
house.
the town meeting.
Well, that'll be, yeah, I mean, a pitch after the article and pitch at town hall for the auxiliary, I think is, I think there's enough people in town that you'd be like, yeah, I can do it for a year. Come up with ideas, do the setups, do the planning, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
All right, so that's where we're at, 14.2 in spending.
I think it's too high. No offense, but
Yeah.
I think if we're gonna ask the library to stand up and ask for additional funds, then they should.
Well, I disagree with that because I think that, like I said, we don't ask Lee to go out and do fundraising for his part. I mean, he's a paid employee.
Right.
These are volunteer
Yeah.
for the town.
Mhm.
So I don't think that they should have to make a play.
But the only reason why I'm saying that is based on the grant money that they're hopefully going to get.
We haven't been successful 5 times at that grant.
Yeah.
but-
6 is the charter.
towns can also apply for those same grants, municipal departments.
Yeah.
Just for what it's worth, the town of Putney applies themselves directly for grants for their fire department,
Right.
Right.
which also
But,
has.
but they're a municipal department, you guys aren't.
Yeah.
So we can't apply for that grant because you're not a municipal department.
Yeah,
You're your own
but
entity.
the fundraising, they're also volunteers. in
Yep.
The same sort of capacity, but they don't fundraise for themselves.
And again, don't know anybody's financial situation, but Dummerston has the lowest municipal tax rate in Montgomery County. Still, even with these two.
But there's also a
examples.
lot of older people on fixed incomes.
Yeah.
And a 15%, that's gonna be a
Yep.
hit.
It
It's
is.
less than last year.
Yeah, not by
Yeah,
much.
not by much. I mean, of course, what I want is, I'm fine, and I kind of agree with Paul, fire department's a little different than the library. I want people to stand up and go, I don't want to pay the money for 40,000 in the capital fund for the fire department. Make them do it through fundraising. I mean, it's hard, but the problem is, it's just like certain people in this town, they want to pepper you with stuff, but they don't want to show up at a meeting and explain further what they want or what they want to do. They're just like, I'm just going to send you email. I'm responding to your email. And it's like, yeah, but I don't care. It's like, well, show up at a meeting, man. And so it's hard,
Mhm.
but if somebody doesn't want the budget to be that, I'll have all the numbers. And somebody says, what if we don't pay them 40,000 in the capital fund? I can tell them exactly how it'll affect the tax rate.
Mhm.
Or what if we had the library? What's that going to do? I can tell you what it's going to do, right? I think we've been through a few years. There was. So I went back and looked. So what? 5 years ago, 2.7%, followed by a 9% raise, and then a 10% decrease. I don't know what happened that year. Was that COVID? It was a 10% decrease in
Probably.
2023.
Probably COVID.
Probably COVID.
Did ARPA money offset?
I don't think the ARPA money. Well, I don't know.
No.
Well, that's the other thing too. So that's another part of the story. How much ARPA money did we spend? 450,000? 500?
525.
Right. So we've also been sitting fat, dumb, and happy on ARPA money that
Mhm.
would have had to come from taxes and didn't.
Right.
And now, granted, people might have said, "I don't want to fix the community center," because a lot of it went to the community center. But ARPA money has also kind of buoyed things for a few years. That's helped. I mean, that's half of our annual budget.
And I think that needs to be presented to the town, that the ARPA money's gone now. This is, the reality.
But I mean, Maria, I agree with you. At 14%, when we had it at 11, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
which is why I wanted to have this discussion. I'm like, 11, I felt is like right at the edge of kind of like a target in my mind when this all started. For a while, we're up at 18 or 19,
Mhm.
which always happens.
Or
Like,
more.
Or more. All right. So, Tom, you're right with the article's going to 14.4. We're going to have to meet next week to vote on this, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm good with including it because I Were you asking me, Tom?
Yeah.
But I don't know if
No, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think the fire, I'm good with it. I think the fire department is a necessity, and I also think the library is a necessity. So I'm good with both of them. I'm good with our plans. Keep the
Alex?
40,000.
I'm good with the 40.
Right. Paul?
I'm good with.
All right. I'm good. I know you guys think it's too high.
Yeah, I think it's too high.
I'll offer up an article. If people want to have a discussion about it at town meeting, feel free to bring it up, right? It can be taken out, or somebody may want to put more in. It could happen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the article will have 14.4 and have the numbers broken out. The article you read, it's really just numbers changing a little bit on the fire department capital fund. And that grants and fundraising, see below paragraph, could help offset future
Please come.
years, right?
Mhm.
All right. And additionally, not to do with you guys, I agree with you on the capital fund, the interest rate, leaving it at 0.18.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
I agree.
I think upping interest rates like gambling on diesel fuel
Yeah.
is, I don't think we're in a position to do that. I think just leave it the way it is.
I think
0.18? That's pretty low.
it's only an estimate. When we get the actuals in, we plug those in. But the problem is that if we go higher to the suggested 4%, I think it's gonna overinflate, just what I had said to all of you, it's gonna overinflate the balance.
I had
Is there-
This is Chris.
Okay.
Oh yeah, hey Chris. Chris.
My 4% was just a statement of fact. I have to agree with Maria in that from an accounting point of view, you need to take a conservative outlook. You can't take the rosiest. So I was just pointing out fact, and I think it's good to underestimate so you don't get into trouble.
And it rolls in, so what we actually get, maybe more. And that just rolls into the capital fund next year, so it's an extra couple $1,000s.
Mhm.
We get it.
I
Yeah.
just
I
have
mean,
one
there's
question.
your diesel fuel.
I had just
Yeah.
one question on the diesel fuel. Is my understanding, Chris, that we paid taxes on the diesel fuel last year?
Negative.
Oh, we did not. Okay,
Barrows, we did not pay state or federal.
okay.
With Roberts, I have gotten them to take off Vermont tax. I am still fighting to take off the federal tax.
Okay,
Yeah, they took over and apparently nothing was handed off to the new company, so. They're
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah, this
We
was-
reached out for all of our license plate numbers and
Right.
everything.
Okay, okay. I don't have anything else, budget-wise. So I'm allegedly either leaving for DC or not on Saturday. Depends whether I get picked for jury duty or not. But I'll dial into whatever meeting we have. So what has to be done?
So I just need to convert this to a Word document, which I've already started.
Okay.
And then I'll email it around to everybody
Mhm.
and then look it over. It'll be this, but it'll be exactly what you will see in this report.
okay.
And I'll email it to Chris and I'll email it to Lori and all of us, and everyone can proofread it before we get to whatever date we send them, because that's what we have to approve. And I'll write the warning up based on the budget.
So our get-together to vote on the Word version,
Yeah,
are we voting on the warrant at the same time, or do we vote the warrant different?
we'll do the budget and the warning is basically it's the same thing.
Same thing?
Yeah.
So we need to meet once?
Yeah.
All right.
And we can, if somebody wants to put in a petition, as Lori said last meeting, they have until the 16th. So if we meet prior to that, we can approve the warning pending any articles that somebody might petition us to include.
All right.
But I'm assuming that if we were gonna receive those, we'd start hearing about it.
So can we say Monday? Let's meet Monday. You'll have your stuff converted.
Yeah.
You'll have the
Yeah.
warnings ready.
Yep.
We'll vote on this Monday.
Monday, what date?
14th?
13th.
13th, Monday the 13th. It'll be short.
Yeah, because I'll send it, and when I send it around, if you see it, even if it's a typo, email me back and I'll fix it,
Okay.
so.
And then we come in Monday for 20 minutes
Mhm.
and vote to approve everything, which will be, obviously, we'll look on the town report and the warnings.
Mhm.
And then we're done with the budget.
Mhm.
And then we won't meet again until 2 weeks from
Alex.
tonight.
I have
Yeah.
another meeting on the 13th.
How about the 14th? Tuesday?
Also, could you make it Chris again?
Oh, yeah. How do you know it's Chris, man?
I just have a feeling.
It's like
Yeah.
3 people.
14th works for me.
Okay, so the 14th at 6.
Tuesday.
So I'll dial in.
Okay.
Or I'll be here. One of the two
Okay.
things will happen. All right, so everybody's job is to QC read it through, give Maria any inputs, be back here Tuesday night. And then we'll have a regular select board meeting the following
The
Wednesday.
following week, yep.
And we'll kind of be back to normal.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll send you an agenda to send to warn this meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can get that out Friday.
Yeah.
All right.
So you're gonna go drive through the snowstorm on Saturday?
Well, we're gonna find out. It's downhill, right? So just put it in neutral and off I go. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. We were gonna drive through the New York side, go over to Troy and down, but
Yeah.
we may not, depending on weather. All right, anything else anybody needs?
Nope.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming and hanging out.
Thanks for hearing.
I know you just like, God, a couple hours to burn tonight.
Did folks sign the warrants?
There should be 4 warrants to sign, and Alex, you and I have 2 minutes.
So the only changes are to add 40,000 for their capital and
Diesel
and the
49.
diesel to 49.
Yep.
I don't think we officially,
Yep.
the word, I'm sorry, end of the meeting.
Oh, no, you can, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
It is